Live on air. In front of millions, Stephen Miller lost control. His voice rose to a yell, words flying like punches aimed directly at Jasmine Crockett. He accused her of destroying the country, betraying American values, turning politics into a circus. "You are a disgrace to Congress. You are a threat to the future of this nation," he shouted, trying to overpower even the host, who struggled in vain to intervene. Viewers froze. Every sentence from Miller grew sharper, louder, and it became clear he was no longer in command of himself. His rage carried a sense of panic, as if he suddenly realized he was losing the debate. He jabbed a finger at Crockett, desperate to brand her the enemy of the people, repeating over and over that she was the embodiment of everything wrong with America. But that very outburst became the hook that gripped the nation. People saw not a confident strategist, but a frantic man shouting because he had no arguments left. And in that moment, as the tension reached its peak, everyone was waiting for just one thing: Jasmine Crockett's response. The clash did not happen in some obscure corner of politics. It unfolded on a primetime broadcast, a high-stakes panel where the spotlight was already blinding. The host had assembled voices from across the spectrum to dissect the latest controversies, but from the very start, Miller was determined to dominate. He leaned forward, interrupting, pressing his points with the force of someone who believed volume could substitute for truth. Jasmine Crockett, however, sat calm. She let Miller spit his accusations, her silence building anticipation with every second. While he painted her as the villain, the viewers began to see the contrast. His face red with anger, her posture steady and composed. It was not just a disagreement, it was a duel of styles. The raw aggression of a political operative colliding with the sharp restraint of a congresswoman who had weathered storms before. The panelists around them exchanged uneasy glances, some trying to interject, others visibly shrinking back from the heat radiating between the two. Commentators later admitted they felt the atmosphere in the studio shift. What was meant to be a debate had turned into a showdown, and America was watching. Phones lit up with live reactions, social media feeds flooded with clips, hashtags began to surge. Even before Crockett opened her mouth, people sensed that the balance was about to tip. The question was not whether she would answer, but how devastating her comeback would be. Stephen Miller doubled down. His words poured out in rapid bursts, his tone dripping with disdain. "You twist the truth, you push lies, and you think shouting identity politics will cover your failures," he barked, his voice straining as he pointed across the table. The host tried to cut in, but Miller barreled forward, determined to drown out everyone else. But Jasmine Crockett did not flinch. She leaned toward the microphone, her expression unshaken, and spoke with clarity that sliced through the noise. "The only person shouting here is you, Stephen. The only person avoiding the truth is you, and every second you scream, the American people can see exactly how weak your arguments are." The studio fell into a hush. The audience in the wings murmured. Miller recoiled for a split second, then snapped back, shouting over her words, "You're destroying this country with your radical agenda. You are tearing apart the very foundation of America." His fists clenched, his voice cracked under the strain. Crockett didn't raise her volume. She didn't need to. "What destroys this country," she said steadily, "is the corruption you defend. What tears America apart is leaders like you, who mistake anger for authority. But anger doesn't make you strong. It exposes your fear." The panel shifted uncomfortably, sensing that Miller's fury was beginning to backfire. Every attempt to shout her down only highlighted the contrast between his chaos and her composure. Commentators on social media typed furiously, "She's dismantling him in real time." Clips circulated instantly, captions reading, "Miller screams, Crockett owns him." The confrontation was no longer just a debate. It had become a battle for credibility, and with every line, Crockett was turning Miller's rage into her weapon. The boiling point came when Miller slammed his hand on the desk, his voice cracking as he shouted, "You are nothing but a fraud, a disgrace to the very office you hold. People like you are destroying America from within." His face was flushed. Sweat glistened under the studio lights, and the raw desperation in his tone made the room tremble with tension. The host raised a hand, pleading for order, but no one could stop what was coming next. Jasmine Crockett leaned forward, eyes locked on Miller, and delivered the line that would echo across the nation. "Stephen, If facts were on your side, you wouldn't need to scream. If truth was with you, you wouldn't be trembling right now. And if strength was really yours, you wouldn't be so afraid of a woman telling you the truth. The studio erupted. Gasps, scattered applause, and stunned silence all collided into one explosive reaction. Miller froze, his mouth half open, his body stiff as though he had been struck. For a moment, his infamous confidence collapsed, leaving him exposed under the harsh glare of the cameras. Social media exploded in real time. Hashtags like #CrockettDestroys, Miller and #screaming. Without facts, shot to the top of the trending lists. Commentators scrambled to capture the shockwave, replaying her words again and again. It wasn't just a comeback, it was a knockout blow. Miller attempted to speak again, but every word seemed hollow, every sentence drowned by the echo of Crockett's precision strike. The host finally stepped in, sensing that the balance of the broadcast had shifted beyond repair. And yet the damage was already done. One phrase had obliterated hours of shouting. For viewers at home, the moment was unforgettable. They had witnessed a live collapse of bluster in the face of calm power, and they knew they were watching history in the making. The silence after Crockett's words carried more weight than any argument that had come before. Stephen Miller, once the loudest voice in the room, sat stunned, searching for words that refused to come. The man who moments earlier had shaken the studio with rage now looked diminished, as though the very energy he tried to weaponize had collapsed in on him. Crockett, on the other hand, did not press further. She didn't need to. Her last words still hung in the air, echoing across the panel and searing into the minds of viewers everywhere. The contrast was undeniable. Miller's anger had dissolved into impotence, while Crockett's calm precision had carved itself into the moment like stone. The host cleared his throat, struggling to regain control. "All right, let's take a breath," he muttered, but the broadcast had already slipped beyond his reach. The damage was permanent, etched into the record of live television. On social media, the flood was unstoppable. Clips of Miller's outburst and Crockett's destruction looped endlessly, each replay amplifying the divide in America. Supporters of Miller tried to spin his fury as passion, but even many on his side admitted the optics were devastating. Meanwhile, Crockett's defenders hailed her as a fearless truth-teller, the rare politician who could slice through the noise and expose the weakness behind the bluster. Late-night hosts rewrote their monologues within hours, comedians mimicking Miller's shouts followed by Crockett's cold-cutting retort. Editorials poured in the next morning with headlines declaring, "Crockett crushes Miller in live meltdown." But beyond the spectacle, the deeper message remained. Shouting is not strength, and volume is not truth. America had seen the difference play out in real time. One side embodied fury without foundation, the other clarity without compromise. And in that collision, the truth stood taller than the noise. As the broadcast ended, Miller slumped back in his chair, defeated. Crockett, calm and unshaken, simply folded her notes and prepared to leave. She had no need for victory laps. The victory was already sealed, carved into the memory of everyone who had witnessed the clash. In the end, it wasn't the shouting that people remembered. It was the moment a single sentence demolished an avalanche of noise and left a legacy of truth stronger than the loudest voice in the room.